Hi, my name is Jamie Tomey, and I am pleased to welcome you to the Evanston Bound Tour series, brought to you by Artist Bookhouse. Each week we get to talk to some amazing book artists and writers, letterpress printers, and paper makers. It's such a good time. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Evanston Bound Tour, brought to you by Artist Bookhouse. I am Jamie Tomey, and I am so excited about our guest today because she is a woman of all things. Trish Shepard is joining us. Trish began to make handmade paper at Seastone Papers on Martha's Vineyard in the late 1990s. While earning her Master of Arts in Arts Administration at the School of the Art Institute, Chicago, she studied paper making in Zimbabwe. She explored bookbinding and letterpress printing at Columbia College's Center for Book and Paper, Wide Awake Garage with Daniel Kelm, and Dartmouth College's underground book arts movement. After moving to the Colorado area in 2008, she dabbled in printmaking while event planning for Anderson Ranch Arts Center. She is a paramour of ephemera. Her collections include squished pennies, globes, postcards, ceramic cookie jars, and 45 RPM records. In 2019, her preoccupation with the open road, travel literature, and a vintage VW bus collided to form Read with Moxie, a nomadic used bookshop. Moxie is a 1977 air-cooled bus that was purchased 25 years ago for a reasonable $700. I'm so excited about that one. Moxie loves the sweet Rocky Mountain summers and enjoys her marketing job as Moxie. Loves the sweet Rocky Mountain summers and enjoys her marketing job as a bookseller. Did I say Roxy or Moxie the first time? I have no idea. You think I said Moxie? Okay.
You said Moxie. Yes.
So, Moxie. So welcome, Trish. I'm so excited to have you here. So usually we start with the question, how did you become a book artist? So for you, I want to do double, because talk us through how you became a book artist, but also maybe later talk us through how Moxie actually came about as far as the used bookstore and how that works. So how'd you become a book artist?
So I started paper making when I lived on Martha's Vineyard in the late 90s after I graduated from Bates College. And Seastone Papers was pretty amazing. It was run by this fantastic woman who I ended up being an assistant to her and really got into more handmade fibers. And they're kind of touched on the actual bookbinding, but pretty much was just doing paper making. Helped her with her dyes. She did a lot of classes using seaweed and local materials.
Oh, cool.
It was awesome for an impressionable 23-year-old. And then I moved to Chicago and was doing more of the arts administration program or the business side. Kind of got away from that creative aspect of it until I met Marilyn Sword at the Bookshop Art Center. Yeah, Marilyn! Yeah, so she was kind of a mentor to me, and it was really cool to see somebody who was an artist, but also somebody who was running a paper center and trying to get other people involved. And it was at that point in the late 90s that it was still at the old center on Wabash before it.
Yeah, 218 South Wabash, 7th floor. Yeah. Dirty, messy, gritty, awesome. Shared bathrooms, all the things.
all the things that art centers should be.
Yeah, exactly. So messy. So then what happened? And
then I was able to study with her in South Africa during a January trip where we went and spent 3 weeks, South Africa and Zimbabwe, making paper in Harare and talking to just other artists in South Africa about all kinds of art, contemporary art.
Yeah.
And then when I came back and finally graduated, they had moved centers and were looking for administrator. So I worked in the office there and then became the assistant director and worked with Bill Drendel and was able to take a lot of classes for free because they had an amazing community arts program. So I would, so then I would spend my days in the office and I basically organized the community classes. Not so much dealt with the MFA, but I loved meeting you as one of those students and all of those great people that came through there the years I was there. Still some of my favorite people of all time. And really just loved staying after and taking classes. And that's when I really began bookbinding, really appreciated the whole structure of the book. My background, my mom was a home ec teacher, so I really do think bookbinding came to me naturally because
you grew up sewing, you grew up making things.
Crafts had always been part of my life, like whether I liked it or not sometimes. So I love that, the detail in kind of the attention to detail that book craft needed. It was, when you work with fabrics or you work with soft materials, that fine lines, you don't really have that as much, but I really love that part about bookbinding. It was like that the cleanness of it.
The obsessiveness of it, the preciseness of it.
Definitely be labeled as obsessive. So that was kind of where I started. And unfortunately, when I left Chicago, it's space. It comes down to an issue of space and where you have the space to do things. Long story, hiked the Appalachian Trail, moved back to New Hampshire, found myself working for Dartmouth College. And it wasn't until that point that I actually had more space. So there was probably, some time in there where I didn't have a space to do work. It was great working at Dartmouth because I was able to dip more into letterpress. They had an amazing hidden gem of a letterpress studio in the basement of the library. Which I was a coordinator for and therefore had a key. So I was able to go in and work on projects, help students, mostly with wedding invitations.
Sure. Which is the tradition of letterpress, goes down that road.
Right. But that program has since flourished, which is amazing. I was friends with Deborah Howe. And it was funny because I never knew Deborah in Chicago. Somehow
you met her out there. Wow.
I met her out there because of Doug.
Because of my Doug?
No, Doug. No. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name.
Doug with the gray hair, Doug?
Yeah,
from like the center.
The sweet Doug.
With because my Doug's not sweet.
Yeah, your Doug is so mean.
With the beard. What was his last name? Oh my goodness, this is going to be terrible. And there's no one on here to ask. Anyway,
So that connection being made in New Hampshire was great because I kind of got back into it for a couple years, and then I ended up leaving there. And kind of since that period in my life, I have a small press that I use, but again, living in Colorado in small apartments, real estate is at a premium. You don't really have studios.
So you're working small right now.
Working small. And I do feel like I've kind of gone back to my roots of, I learned to knit in the last couple of years. My friend Casey's on here. She was one of my friends who I always would look at her knitting and be like, I wish I knew how to knit. And she's like, you can learn. It's not that hard. It's okay.
Yeah. I love that. You can learn. It's not that hard.
You can, there's the internet. It's amazing. So I've been in Colorado for 12 years and have learned to knit and have done some more soft sculptural pieces of work. One of the ones I'm wearing is strangely known in this area for I'm just going to take off a tiny piece of it.
Yes. So actually in the chat, a couple of people have dropped into the chat. Elizabeth says, so glad to be here. Casey said, love that you're alive from Moxie, which is also perfect. And then Laura says, I'm digging that vest, especially piglet on your left shoulder. So tell us the story of this.
This is the back of the vest. So when I moved out here, my first job in the Valley was at a ski club.
Yeah.
So I worked for, close to 8 years, different roles at a local ski club. And started out with a pair of pants. So I took Beanie Babies and little thrift store animals, kind of see.
Yeah.
Decapitated them and sewed the heads onto clothing. So I have the ski pants first, and it was really a bit of an inspiration from a guy I met at Dartmouth who used to go to karaoke, and he had a pair of stuffed animal pants. Weighed like 50 pounds. Like, they were so incredibly heavy.
Oh my goodness.
And he got the idea from I want to say a 1996 video of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He, their lead singer, had a pair of stuffed animal pants he wore in a video.
Oh my goodness.
So when I moved out here, there's a custom in Colorado called Closing Day. And Closing Day is the last day of ski season. And it's a big party. Everyone comes out in costume and skis and drinks and dances and celebrates the end of the season. And the ski patrollers ski down at the end of the day, and everybody cheers. And it's a big celebration.
Fun.
So my first winter out here, I created a pair of stuffed animal pants that I skied around in, snowboarded around in. People loved them. They thought they were hilarious. Lots of strangers taking photos of you.
Of course.
Over the years, so I pretty much only wear them on Closing Day because it's not super functional to snowboard in a pair of stuffed animal pants. And then I got the job as the base camp director at AVSC, the ski club, which is those young children's recreational programs. We're on the mountain on Saturdays. And it was really hard for parents to find you in the crowd of 800 kids getting dropped off.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a lark. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to make a stuffed animal vest, and I'm going to wear it so that people can find me.
That is so cool.
And it really did become this weird trademark.
I
would talk to people on the phone and, I need to see you on Saturday. And I'm like, look for the lady in the stuffed animal vest. And they kind of, what are you talking about? That is insane. I'm like, when you see me, you will understand. And it became like when people would see me on the mountain, when I wasn't, really administrating, wearing the vest, they'd be like, oh, that's the lady who runs the ski club. So,
fun.
But it comes really from, I made one for Atlas. I was going to put it on him, but he hates it.
He hates it. Oh my goodness.
So the whole soft plushy, I've made a couple paintings, which I call Plushie Paintings, where I've taken all brown animals and put them on the canvas, sewn them on, so it's like a 3D visual.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Like for my friends for Christmas, I've made some spirit animals where I take half the giraffe and half the seal and sew them together. So just kind of celebrating, the soft, fluffy.
The snuggles, the warmth.
Good feeling, the comfort.
And that the joy. Because I imagine all of those kids on the mountain seeing you in the vest, they just loved it, I bet. And they're going to remember that for their whole lives.
Yes.
I love that.
Girls,
okay, so
the age of 8, girls are a little bit freaked out by it, but I think they'll understand it when they're in their 20s.
So Laura says, gotta go, love your guts, Trish.
Thanks,
Laura. And I think Katie put something in the chat, but it came up on my phone camera, but it didn't come up on the computer. So I can't, I might have to look real quick. Hold on. So Katie said, Stapleton, Doug Stapleton? That Doug?
No.
The other Doug. He lives I believe he lives in China now, right? Yeah. We're gonna have to look that up.
It's gonna bother me all day.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll find it. But thank you, Katie, for mentioning Doug Stapleton, because he's awesome as well. We had a lot of Dougs during that time period hanging around us at the center, either part of the center or part of the MA program or part of my husband. So talk to us a little bit about what you're working on right now besides the stuffed animal paintings. Are you making on your little press? What are you making? And then just kind of walk us through how your work has changed during COVID,
Yes.
if it has.
Yeah, COVID's been a strange time for sure. This may be too much information. At the beginning of COVID, I just had surgery and I'd already been home for 4 weeks.
Holy cow.
So I was like an extended COVID. I was really in my stride once COVID shutdown happened. Because I was like, oh, I've been home for 4 weeks. So this is
this is routine. Yeah.
So I was knitting I'd knit a sweater, I'd knit some scarves, I'd knit some matching sweaters for my boyfriend and I. But it comes to a point where people don't need another hat. So I made a little stuffed animal for a friend of mine. It was an otter. It was recycled otter, and it had a small uterus that it was holding.
Oh.
Had just had a hysterectomy. And I gave it to her and said, every girl ought to have a uterus, was the little text. So
oh my God.
I'm at home, I'm thinking about like health and being at home and the comfort of yarn and how to bring comfort to other people. And from that pattern of the uterus, I started knitting kind of on a lark, these little coronavirus ornaments.
Oh my goodness. Holy cow. So where can people find these?
So I'm on Instagram, and I kind of just do Instagram and Venmo. I haven't gone to Etsy just because I haven't been able to keep up with the ones I've ordered locally. I've sold over 300 ornaments.
Holy cow.
And they're squishy, so they're like a soft.
So it's like a little dog toy, but
yeah, it's not. I honestly was thinking about making some that have catnip in them for cats. For
yeah.
I was hoping it would be a little funnier by December, that this was like a coronavirus, but
back in the day when we had the coronavirus,
not so funny anymore, but but I've been making these kind of as a more therapeutic maybe for me, because I love making, but to the point of what can I make that isn't going to pack my house with more fluffy articles and more
more Afghans.
More Afghans. Yeah, so the Afghan. So I'm in my Volkswagen bus right now, which maybe you guys can tell. And I kind of really focused on knitting during the shutdown. I've taken I signed up for some weird classes on the internet. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, what did you take?
I signed up for an architectural watercolor class from a guy in London. I signed up for, which I haven't, the second one I haven't actually done a lot of work. It was portraiture, but using text, words. So it's like all your lettering in the outline of someone's face.
Oh, that's
I haven't gotten to that yet, but I have access to it, just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I can imagine that becoming very obsessive.
Because I think you remember I love handwriting. I'm a big handwriting which I'll actually show a journal to go back to that. So you can see my weird font-like handwriting. My dog just got out of the car and he's roaming around the neighborhood. So I'm literally sitting in my driveway right now filming. So I hope there's not too much background noise.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So knitting the coronavirus. And what else? What else during COVID has changed or grown for you?
So I started I started Moxie, the Bookmobile booksellers 2 summers ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the first summer, so I work at a weird little tavern, waitressing during the summers, and the tavern's called the Woody Creek Tavern. So it's in Colorado, and there's always a huge line to get in because it's a pretty small, eclectic hole in the wall.
Yeah. And
people like to bike down, so they'll bike down 7 miles from Aspen to Woody Creek on this really beautiful bike path, and then have a couple margaritas, some burritos and enchiladas, and then bike back.
Nice.
There's nothing down there. When I say Woody Creek, it's a post office, a fire station, the tavern, and a trailer park. And then there's some really beautiful houses up on the flats that are ranches and, multi-million-dollar homes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of was a strange place. People would wait just sitting out on the side of the road with nothing to look at. There's no stores to look at. So I was like, you know what? I think a bookstore would be really great down here.
Yeah.
And I read a book by Jenny Colglin called Bookshop on the Corner.
Ooh.
I like to read books about bookshops, which is awesome.
It's awesome. Bookshop on the corner. Yeah, there are a lot of them.
There are a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I read that, and it was about this woman who had lost her job in London as a librarian. And come here, Atlas. Can you come up? Sorry, I'm trying to lure my dog back in the car. Come on.
Yeah, come on, Atlas.
Come on up. Come on.
There he is. Go boy.
That's Atlas. It's his favorite place is the Volkswagen for sure. So she had lost her job in London and decided that she was going to move to Scotland and see what happened.
Yeah.
And in the process was able to get a lot of the books from the library and get them shipped up there. And then she bought a kind of like a bread truck is the best I could describe it, and opened a nomadic bookstore. And the story is about her life and the people she met and moving to a new place and how she was accepted. So I was kind of like, well, I like books and I have a VW bus and I could do that too. So the first summer I just got random books from like thrift stores, from friends who were looking to get away from books. My first, my artist statement, my plan was it was just going to be travel literature. I was just going to have books about traveling.
Yeah. Of course, because it's a VW bus. That's sustainable.
Yeah, it's totally sustainable. People were like, you might want to expand that a tiny bit because I'm not sure everybody likes travel literature.
Right.
First summer was fine. And it was it's unmanned. So I don't stand out there beside it and like talk awkwardly about books to people. It's definitely go out, explore it, look and see, take your time, browse, no pressure. And it's donation based. So if people need a book and they don't have any money, like have at it. I don't track. I have no idea what my inventory is. Sometimes I can tell what people have bought. Sometimes I'm like, I have no idea where that book went.
Yeah.
So there's a gas can. I'm gonna unhook my computer and just walk around to the back.
Yeah, we actually have a question on here. Okay. So what are your best sellers or your customers' favorite genres? Maybe while you're walking around, you can talk about that a little bit too. So show us Moxie.
Okay. So I'm getting out of the slider. So I'm going to try to just give you here.
Yes.
So that's the bus, kind of the deal. It's a 77, super rusty.
So gorgeous. Yeah.
Not real shiny. And so,
okay, can I just interrupt real quick? On Zoom, if you walk slower, because it makes us dizzy if you're going too fast. Okay, so this is the back, and you just open this up and let people drop into the gas can?
Yep, the money you can pay in the gas can.
Awesome.
Or I have Venmo. I'm super sick.
Yeah. And what does this sign say there? Community? What does that say?
Oh, so this little guy right here?
Yeah. Oh, it says Gonzo.
So you asked about the best sellers. So the best sellers by far are books by Hunter S. Thompson.
What?
I know. So weird, right? So the books. So the tavern is about 3 miles from Hunter S. Thompson's ranch.
Oh,
where he committed suicide 15 years ago.
Okay, so this makes sense now.
It makes a lot more sense. So there is a strange group of people who love Hunter S. Thompson, or younger people especially, that we call Hunter Hunters.
Okay.
That will come kind of on a pilgrimage type mission.
Yeah.
Woody Creek Tavern, because he used to hang out there.
Yeah.
he was not, he was kind of a jerk. I'm just going to say it nicely.
Yeah. Okay.
He was definitely hardcore drugs, alcohol, didn't really treat servers very well. So the staff that's worked there for 20 years is not huge fans, to be honest. But it does make it interesting because people will come with their little hunter pins, and it makes selling books really easy.
Yeah, because you just find all the Hunter S. Thompson you can and put it in that box.
Exactly. And I charge more for Hunter S. Thompson books just because I know people are coming to get that whole experience.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So most of those I get on eBay, the sources for those, because those aren't super easy to find locally.
Yeah.
And then the question about what people like, that's a good one. So I did section it off. I have basically crime. Can you see that, Jamie?
Yeah, but your hair's in the way. Okay. Your hair fell down. Oh, now the sun's in the way. No, this is great. So you have sections in your little bookshop, and you made little labels. Look at that.
Yeah. Crazy.
Oh my God. I love this.
So I still have a travel section because that's still my favorite type of literature. Travel section, adventure, autobiography or biography, beach reads, nonfiction, classics. I'd say maybe the classics are kind of the more popular ones.
Yeah.
And I do have kids' books, which I usually put on a little stool outside at a lower, and it's
so the kids can see.
So the kids can pawn through it. This summer has been interesting because our local thrift shop is not open.
Okay, yeah. So you haven't been able to replenish as much.
Yeah. Oh, and I made this little book sign, which you can.
Yeah, I love this. And then, okay, so let's see. Elizabeth also says, beach reads in the mountains. Love it. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. So
this is so great. So you just pull this up to the outside the tavern and open it up and go to work.
Yep, pretty much.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and it's fun because we have an outdoor patio, so you can see during the day as people are looking at it. My favorite was when somebody came over middle of the day, and I looked, and there was like some young people by it, standing outside smoking a joint. And I was like, okay, well, that's cool. It's Colorado. Okay.
And Natalie says, I spy one of my favorite books into thin air. Yes. That book is, I've read that multiple times, and it's also very sad and scary. And I met John Krakauer once, and it was really interesting conversation, and so cool. This is really, really cool. And what a wonderful idea. So during COVID, you said your thrift store has been closed. So how have you been able to replenish?
So I'm just going back inside, you guys. Sorry for moving too fast.
No worries.
So let me just show you the little kids first, and I'll talk.
Oh, I love it's in a little suitcase. That's great.
Because I do love vintage suitcases.
Yeah.
So this is the kids collection, and this spring summer, I had 3 different people contact me, because once people drive by and kind of see, word of mouth has gotten out that, oh, crazy lady with the books down in Woody Creek. So a gentleman had passed away who I knew very well because he had started, Bob Biotti. He's like an old ski pro. He used to have a show on NBC back in like the 80s. And he lived in Woody Creek. And he passed away. And his kids were cleaning out his big ranch. And he had, 500 books.
Oh, wow.
And they were kind of like, we just want to get rid of these. They showed up at my house with a F-150, nothing in boxes.
Oh my God, just a pile of books in the back.
Yeah, books thrown into the back of the pickup truck.
And my goodness.
Oh, okay.
So did you just climb in and start throwing books out and keeping all of them, or did you sort through?
I kept all of them. And then the next week went through and kind of was like, there's some of these books he had traveled a lot, which was really cool to see all these travel guides from the 80s from Europe.
Yeah.
So I'm not selling those ever.
No, but you can make something out of them.
So I went through, right now there's a lot of books in my basement in boxes just waiting to be used. And
Yeah.
then a friend of mine moved to Hawaii, and they were not going to take a lot of their books.
Ooh.
He had worked at our local bookshop, which
Oh
used to be
no.
it's called Explorer Bookshop. It used to be called the Unicorn Bookshop, which is possibly the best name of a bookshop ever.
It's true.
Yeah, the Unicorn. Why would you change that? The Unicorn.
Why? Why would you change it? Yeah.
So I got a lot of great books from him, more modern things, and then a wealthy family who lives in Woody Creek, who's actually related to the Bucksbaums, who are big Chicago art
Yeah.
supporters. Their house manager stopped at the tavern and was like, "Hey, I have about 8 boxes of children's books and young adult books. Would you be interested in those?" And at this point, I didn't really have a lot of kids' books, so I was like, "Yeah, bring them over."
Nice.
Oh, like beautiful, not opened, just
Ooh.
really great messages, a range of subjects. So that kind of formed the basis for my kids' collection.
For your kid, that's awesome.
So
That is fantastic. And so so you were able to be open because it's a socially distanced, automatically a socially distanced store, but how, like, do you open Moxie at all during the winter? Is it kind of just a seasonal thing?
So
Because you guys have snow there.
Yeah, I have snow, and the bus doesn't have any heat.
Okay.
So I don't really drive Moxie during the winter because it's freezing cold and you can't see up the front because there's
there's ice.
I did do some pop-ups during the COVID shutdown. I was basically just opening in my driveway and saying, "Hey, if anybody needs a book, I know we're all stir crazy. All the bookstores were closed, all the libraries were closed.
Yeah.
Come on by, grab one. If you don't need to pay, just come grab a book if you need it." Done a couple pop-ups outside the local coffee shop. And the best part is I can just go into town for an hour and throw open the back, leave the bus, and go do my errands and come back.
And nobody says people love it. So you don't get tickets for not having a permit or whatever.
I mean, I do live in the country, and a friend of mine always is like, "Is that legal?" I don't think that's legal. So it's definitely, I fly a little bit under the radar because I don't have a permit. But Woody Creek is definitely a good fit for that because it's a little bit, how do I put this? Lawless, maybe would be the word.
Yeah, it's like Deadwood over there.
No one's that's the least amount of worry about, if somebody's selling books in Woody Creek, no one's gonna care.
They're like, whatever. Yeah. And they also, it's become a destination. It seems like Moxie draws people too. I would think. Yeah.
And I do post, when I'm open. Basically, it's the hours I'm working.
And does Moxie have an Instagram?
It's under Live Life with Moxie.
Live Life with Moxie. Okay, people can find that. Hold on. Let me go back to the chat because Elizabeth says, "What are some of your favorite books to read?" Which is a fantastic question.
Good question. So,
besides travel books, you pulled them out. You got them ready.
Elizabeth, here you go.
Phantom Tollbooth, The Alchemist, On the Road, of course. Angela Lansbury. Is that her biography?
Sure is.
Oh my goodness. And what's the big blue one that doesn't have a title on the spine?
So this was actually a book that I rebound when I worked
I remember that.
Yeah. It is a collection of women's travel stories.
I remember this one. Yeah. Oh, I love it.
I love this book. I mean, I've moved so many times in the last 20 years, and I just still keep this one on my bookshelf.
Next to you. Yeah.
So good. Yeah. It was fun kind of getting ready for this because I was looking at some of the old stuff. My mom just recently moved, and we cleaned out her house, so I found my books from college. What was I reading in 1994? Who knew? On the Road with Jack Kerouac.
I mean, you're consistent, so.
Totally, if nothing else. And the way I realized when I read it was I used to do this thing where I would write along the edge where I was when I was reading.
Oh, I love that. And you don't do that anymore?
I've stopped, which is strange because I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, it really is.
And
I
then
love that.
I would give books to friends. Like in here, one of my old boyfriends wrote where he was when he had it.
I love that.
Yeah, so this one says May 23rd, 1994, British Airways flight, Vienna to London. What seat I was sitting in, and that there was a British lady next to me.
Oh my gosh, see, I love that. And I think you need to start that again. You need to reinvigorate the marginalia in your books. Especially the ones, and Elizabeth says you can't do that with a Kindle. You are so right.
That's true.
Yes. And also, like, if you read a book and then you decide to put it in Moxie, that gives somebody that, like, I love the history of used books. I love the idea of those things in there. So that's awesome. What were you going to say? I'm sorry, I keep interrupting.
You're fine. I also used to belong to book crossings, which I used to.
Oh, yes. You introduced me to book crossings.
Trade books. When I thru hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2002, right after I left Chicago. Mm-hmm. And I took books with me that were really thin and had people sign in the front who read them and asked the last person to mail it back to me. And I have an amazing copy of The Wizard of Oz. Someone sent back to me with the 10 different names of hikers who had read that story while they hiked the Appalachian Trail.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that. I love that. Because that just adds to the story of the story to me. Right. That's so cool. That is so cool. And you were going to show us, so those are your favorite books to read, some of your favorite books to read.
I love The Alchemist. That's my go-to.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
I have it in Spanish. I haven't really gotten that good at Spanish yet to read it, but one day.
I haven't read that book for a while. I might need to pick it up again.
It's a good one for COVID because it has that whole circular thing of what you were looking for was always buried under the tree in your yard. So
yeah. I love that. Okay, so what else do you have to show us?
So I told you I would show you this is my Appalachian Trail journal.
Yes, I love this book.
Which is the one.
I have actually been so lucky to see this in person. Tell us the story about how this book ended up happening. Because you on the Appalachian Trail, if you're a through hiker, you can't carry things with you that you will need the entire time. So talk through that process a little bit, and then go ahead.
I'm just gonna hold it up so you can get a better view of it. So each individual booklet was a journal that I mailed to myself in a mail drop along the Appalachian Trail. So at the end, I was able to take each one. So this was a journal that I worked on for whatever, a week, 2 weeks, depending on. And then at the end I took a workshop with Daniel Kelm doing the hardcover wood, which I thought was fitting.
With the Coptic.
Coptic stitch. And it's really held up. It's amazing. Like, so you can kind of just see some of the text.
Yeah.
Writing. We played a lot of cribbage. We didn't have a cribbage board, so we kept score. I hiked it with my boyfriend at the time. We kept score during the whole trail.
I just love this one. And then, doing some rubbings and some of the like little tickets and things that you collect. It's so cool.
Stamps.
And I love the idea of taking it in sections and having because you made the signatures long before you left, of course, because you had to pack everything before you left. And so you started this plan.
I actually made piece paper covers at the center in Chicago. And those were the covers. They were like, we put waterproofing on them because it kind of rains a lot of the time when you're hiking. So
Katie says Coptic seems to be the perfect binding for this. You are right. Yeah. It really does. And go ahead.
The only sad part is if I didn't get a mail drop, that means I wouldn't have had that section. Like that's the only thing I had to write on. There was only one mail drop that we missed, and we made it all the way to Maine. And so I used bath mats to make this section.
Oh my goodness.
Paper bath mats that were at the hostel we were staying at. and I cut them down to the same size. And so all the paper's the same, except for the bath mat.
The bath mat section.
So yeah, you really can make anything, and it's held up well.
Yeah.
18 years later.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So yeah,
what did you put? Yeah, go ahead.
It's definitely one of my favorite journals I've ever made.
So
I don't think I've had a period of 6 months where I've journaled every single day.
Yeah.
For 6 months.
Yeah, of course. Well, and you also had, like, there was stuff that you were doing each day where you were walking many miles, but you also had a lot of downtime.
So much downtime.
Okay, and Diane says you should do an edition of this wonderful book. Have you ever considered doing any kind of, like, pieces of this or producing it that way?
I haven't. I just feel like it's so personal, and so it just captures a period in my life that I don't know if I would want it to be public.
Okay.
I've had it on display at like a couple different places, and I was always very wary. I don't know, having it out of my
nervous.
having it out of my possession.
Well, it's also kind of like you said, and I remember, and this might be saying a little bit too much, but I remember conversations before you left, or just the decision that you guys made to do this was kind of brought about. You'd always been thinking about it, but brought about by September 11th. And just the idea of really grabbing onto life because it's so short and we never know. And so I imagine a lot of that feeling goes into this book too.
That is true. And it was also, so I hiked it with my boyfriend's fiance, and we later broke up. So I feel like this is kind of one of the last records of that relationship.
Yeah.
And all the stuff that was going on at that time.
Yeah.
In 2011, we left a major city.
Yeah.
Kind of threw our hats into the wind, and we're like, okay, we're out of here. Not really knowing what was going to be after the 6 months we spent on the trail. So
exactly. And you shaved your head before you left?
I did shave my head. I had super short hair.
Super short hair. And I remember it's very vivid. From this side, it's very vivid memory too. So Diane says that's what makes it wonderful, the personal element. It's true. It's true. And also, besides the fact that it's just such a gorgeous actual physical book, and then you have that added layer of doing it at Dan Kelm's. So
right. Yeah. Which is
phenomenal.
I was very lucky to live on the East Coast where I had someone like that so close, where it was about a 2-hour drive down there. So
that you could work with.
And that's, again, like, where do you find that space and the tools? And he really nailed it with his studio.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the other book projects I did, my mom, again, I had just mentioned she had just sold our family home. This book I found, and I had forgotten, it's just a regular book, but my sister and I, so each chapter is about a different room in your house. And I made it for my mom in 1999 when she was thinking of selling her house.
Oh my goodness.
And my sister and I, for Christmas, wrote out memories of our kitchen. So each chapter, we each wrote out, I think I told my sister how many words could fit on the page. And she sent them to me, and then I printed them out and sewed them into the book.
Oh my goodness.
So this Christmas, because we no longer own this house that we all grew up in, my mom lived there when she was 5. My sister and I were both raised there. I'm going to give it back to her for Christmas, because I think she forgot we gave it to her. It's been almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And now that we don't own that house and can never really return there in that same,
it's going to be way more meaningful.
Yeah. I'm probably going to cry when I read it.
Yeah.
But this one's a great geography of home. And it's funny, I love travel literature, but I also love books about homecoming, how you make a home, what is a home.
Yeah.
And it's interesting.
Well, there are two sides of a coin. It's two sides of a coin. Yeah. It's the home and it's the away. It's both. And I love that. And I just had an idea of an exhibition.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you, Trish. Okay. So one of the books that I remember you making at the center was, and you can tell this story, was with the King Arthur flower. So can you tell that story? I know you don't have the book probably right there.
I don't, but my mom still has it, which she did not keep many things from her house. My mom, when she moved out, had a collection of 146 cookbooks. 146. She was also a teacher, so I guess that makes sense. But
it makes total sense.
Seemed excessive. But clearly books of all kinds my family is into. So I had taken back, it probably was around 2000, right before I left Chicago. It was a cookbook, the King Arthur flower cookbook, and I took the flour sacks that they had and used them as the front and
back.
I think I used the red book cloth on the spine.
I believe it was, because it kind of matched. It made the most sense.
Yeah, and it's similar. I think I did something similar. I sewed the end bands on, so it was similar to this, sewn end bands, round sacks. And my mom still has that. I think that's one of the 5 cookbooks she kept, was that one.
Out of the 146. Oh, I love that.
And then postcards, Jamie.
Oh my gosh, yes, please. Tunnel book out of postcards. Yes, please.
So these...
I forgot about these. How did I forget about these?
And I have a lot of them. It's really quite hilarious. I love postcards. Postcards are really hard to find now. People aren't making them. I traveled a lot after I worked for the airline for the last 3 years and have been to a bunch of countries, and postcards are definitely fading. So I, over the past 20 years, have collected postcards. These are little tunnel books, just a real simple folded accordion on the side. Structure. So I have a bunch from national parks. Another one.
And now talk us through, like, where do you show these now? Is there a place out there that you can, or do you look for places during travel?
There is I've shown these particular ones at the Aspen Chapel Gallery here in Aspen. It's a pretty vibrant arts community in Aspen. There's an art center that has a bunch of studios where people pay like a pretty low fee for rent. And it's an old elementary school that's been so it really feels like an elementary school. Long middle hall, wood, little doors off the sides. So it's shared with nonprofits and artist studios.
I'm laughing because my family used to own an old elementary school in Missouri. Which is where my sister actually had her wedding reception outside. And that's another story for another time, but go ahead.
And then I worked here at Anderson Ranch Art Center, which I'm not sure how many people are familiar with that. They're not super book arts heavy. They're mostly known for ceramics, their painting program, woodworking. They have photography program, and it's an old ranch that it's more of a ski resort now, but the ranch buildings were collected from the valley and moved to this location, which was the original Anderson Ranch. And they started an artist center, like, I think it's 40 years ago now. Like it's been around for a long time. I worked there for 3 summers. And we started my boyfriend and I at the time started a small gallery there called the Booth Gallery. It was the world's tiniest art space. It was the old telephone booth. So it was for one-man shows only.
Nice.
Very intimate because you could basically have one viewer at a time go into the space. It was called Booth. It was a small space that we allowed like interns and staff members to have their own solo shows.
I love that.
Yeah, it was fun. We did.
Okay. No, go ahead. You did a lot.
We did weekly. We changed it every 2 weeks, so it gave people a good rotation, and we'd have openings. And it was more to bring people together, because at Anderson Ranch, when you're working there in the summer, it's straight on for June 1st through August 31st. Nobody gets a day off. There's classes. They have a series of lectures. So it was a real kickback for the staff to be there. And then it was nice because people who were taking classes from all around the country could kind of come look at what people working there were making. And you had that dialogue We played music on a record player that I brought.
Oh, so cool.
Kind of old school exchange of ideas, totally informal.
I love that. Is it still in existence? Do you know?
It has gone through, kind of passed it down to people as people quit and left. Like I left, and then my boyfriend kept doing it. And then when he left, eventually, it's been picked up by a bunch of other people. So it's fun to go there and see what goes happening and be like, oh, it's cool. We started this. It was totally
fun. That's so cool. So one thing that's standing out, of course, with you and your life and your work and everything is this idea of taking something that isn't traditionally something, whether it's a bookstore or an art gallery or a book, and making it into that thing. So we only have a few more minutes left, but can you speak to that idea of that creativity of looking at spaces and places and making them into something else, or finding those ideas? Can you talk about that a little bit?
It is true. That's really well.
That's your through line. That's your through line. Is.
And I've owned this Volkswagen bus for 25 years. I've driven a lot of miles really slowly, tons of time to think about what could be and what you might want to make of your life. And I do feel like having those open times to just consider, hey, I like this. How can I make that part of my life? And how can I make it better for other people or share that with them? People will text me when they see me driving down the road. I just saw Moxie. It totally made my day.
Oh.
If you're driving a hybrid Prius, you're going to just run right in with every other car.
Right.
And
especially in Aspen.
Especially in Aspen, or Tesla, or, some other nice car.
Right. Some of those things you can't buy for $700.
Not buy those for $700. But it is that, I've owned this bus for 25 years. There's been so many people who've, at different points when it hasn't run or it's super rusty, that you should sell it. And somehow for me, giving up those, I love old things. I love collecting old things. I loved going through my mom's house and hearing all the stories of the photographs we found from people I didn't even know. So that whole holding on to the old, but bringing it and sharing it in some new form.
Yeah.
Definitely, like a phone booth. People don't even know what phone booths are anymore. Like bringing that into the new and being able to re-energize it and give it meaning and get people interested in it. And you never know what people are going to be interested in.
Yeah.
You do, but not really.
and as long as you're interested in it, the passion is there, the drive is there, and you can fuel that thing with that passion and drive.
I do think part of my whole being an artist, being an admin, I feel like my best attribute is I'm authentic and sincere, and people can read that and kind of get excited about what you're excited in because you're totally into it.
Yeah.
You don't really need to market it if you're living it and you're authentic. I think this world has become a little bit skewed in that, and it's just nice to find people and community that enjoy those things, and whether it's knit or whether it's books. I do have to say, I have one little thing I wanted to read.
Okay.
I found this today. It was tucked inside the blue book.
What? What is this?
So it is an old journal page that I must have ripped out of a journal. This is before I knew how to knit, which I find even funnier.
Okay.
So it has a blind faith, which is a beer logo from Vermont. So I'm assuming this is like 2003, maybe 17 years ago, before I knew how to knit. The 5 lessons of knitting. 1, our lives must be knitted together in community to be strong, just as yarn gets its strength from being spun and twined together. 2, good work takes time. 3, knitting for someone else carries love and prayer. 4, working with your hands disciplines the mind. And 5, habitual work centers the mind, calms the soul, and opens the heart.
Oh,
perfect, right?
That is perfect, and I'm all teary-eyed now. That's gorgeous. Okay, so Casey says it's a magic hat label. Yay! Okay, on that note, thank you so much, Trish, for joining us today. I'm a little teary-eyed.
So good to see you, Jamie.
Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for all the joy, and thank you for the work that you do. Hi again. Thank you so much for watching this week's Quarant Tour. We really appreciate your support. If you want to learn more about our guest from today, please read the description below. And if you'd like to support more programming like this, coming from Artist Bookhouse, please visit our website at artistbookhouse.org/donate. Thank you again for joining us.